What if the ultimate test of love isn't about loyalty, but about truth? In the newly released urban romance Rose in the Dust, Liu Yuning steps into a role unlike anything we've seen before. His character, Xiaobei, doesn't just fall in love. He becomes the target of a calculated emotional experiment. But here's the twist. The deeper the test goes, the more complicated the feelings become. So the question is, who is really being tested? Rose in the Dust premiered on February 26, 2026, positioning itself as one of this year's most talked about urban romance dramas. At the center of the story is Li Xiaoxi, a sharp and emotionally guarded woman whose profession revolves around evaluating relationships. Whether by design or circumstance, she becomes involved in situations where trust and loyalty are carefully observed, measured, and sometimes deliberately challenged. Enter Xiaobei, portrayed by Liu Yuning, a composed, principled man whose quiet confidence immediately sets him apart. What begins as a controlled emotional assessment slowly evolves into something far more personal. The dynamic between them blurs the line between professional distance and genuine connection. As the narrative unfolds, viewers are invited to question whether love can truly be examined objectively, or if every test inevitably risks awakening real feelings. So why does Xiaobei become the subject of this emotional test in the first place? Within the narrative, he represents a rare profile: successful, emotionally steady, and seemingly unwavering in his values. For someone whose world revolves around examining the cracks in relationships, a man like Xiaobei is both a professional challenge and a psychological curiosity. Li Xiaoxi approaches him with calculated composure, observing his reactions, testing his boundaries, and subtly placing him in situations designed to reveal vulnerability. However, the expected imbalance never quite materializes. Instead of falling into predictable patterns, Xiaobei responds with clarity and restraint. His calm refusal to overreact or overcommit complicates the experiment. What was meant to be a controlled evaluation slowly transforms into a mutual emotional negotiation. The tension rises not because he fails the test, but because he doesn't. And in that unexpected stability lies the true dramatic turning point. As the story progresses, viewers begin to recognize that Xiaobei is subjected to more than a single evaluation. Instead, he encounters a series of subtle emotional tests, each designed to probe a different layer of his character. The first test centers on temptation and proximity. Placed in carefully constructed situations meant to blur personal boundaries, Xiaobei is observed for signs of hesitation or weakness. Yet his response is measured. He neither withdraws coldly nor advances recklessly, maintaining a balance that suggests maturity rather than indifference. The second test examines trust. Through partial truths and ambiguous circumstances, Li Xiaoxi watches closely to see whether suspicion will surface. Surprisingly, Xiaobei chooses transparency over defensiveness, signaling confidence not only in himself, but in the connection forming between them. The third test is emotional vulnerability. When conversations grow more personal, he does not evade them. Instead, he reveals just enough sincerity to shift the dynamic. Ironically, it is at this stage that the experiment begins to reverse, because the one analyzing the emotions may be the first to lose control. Beyond the scripted tension, Xiaobei's appeal has sparked intense discussion across Chinese social media platforms. Viewers frequently describe him as gentle yet commanding, a rare balance that blends emotional intelligence with quiet authority. Unlike conventional romantic leads who rely on dramatic gestures, Xiaobei's strength lies in restraint. He listens more than he speaks. He reacts rather than overreacts. And when he chooses to step forward, the moment feels intentional rather than impulsive. Short-form video edits highlighting his subtle expressions and composed body language have circulated widely, emphasizing how presence alone can create impact. Comment sections often point out that his calm demeanor does not signal passivity, but rather confidence rooted in self-assurance. This duality, soft in tone, firm in principle, resonates strongly with modern audiences seeking healthier portrayals of masculinity. As a result, Xiaobei is not merely perceived as attractive, he represents emotional stability. And in a storyline built around testing love, that stability becomes the most powerful statement of all. As the narrative advances, the real twist of Rose in the Dust becomes increasingly clear. What initially appears to be a structured examination of loyalty gradually exposes a far more delicate issue: trust built under incomplete truth. The premise suggests that emotions can be evaluated through observation and strategy. However, the deeper Li Xiaoxi proceeds with her calculated approach, the more fragile the emotional foundation becomes. The tension no longer revolves around whether Xiaobei will remain faithful. Instead, it shifts toward a more unsettling question: what happens when he discovers that his sincerity was part of an assessment? In that moment, the power dynamic inevitably changes. The observer becomes vulnerable, and the subject gains moral ground. This reversal carries strong viral appeal because it taps into a universal fear: being emotionally authentic in a situation that was never fully authentic to begin with. Ultimately, the drama suggests that while loyalty can be tested, trust, once compromised, demands something far more difficult to rebuild. As we move beyond the plot itself, the story invites a deeper conversation, one that extends far beyond fiction. First, if you learn that someone deliberately tested your loyalty before committing to you, would you interpret that as emotional caution or emotional manipulation? Second, does Xiaobei represent a new standard of modern masculinity, calm, emotionally articulate, and grounded? Or are we idealizing composure without seeing the full complexity beneath it? And finally, in relationships shaped by hidden motives, who carries greater responsibility? The person who creates the test, or the person who unknowingly participates in it? These questions resonate because they mirror real-world dilemmas about transparency, vulnerability, and emotional ethics. Share your perspective below. The most compelling love stories are not just watched, they are debated. Rose in the Dust ultimately challenges a simple assumption: that love can be measured without consequence. The series reminds us that once emotions are involved, control becomes an illusion. Whether Xiaobei and Li Xiaoxi can rebuild trust is a question the story continues to explore, and one that keeps audiences invested. If you found this analysis insightful, subscribe for more in-depth coverage of Asian dramas shaping the global conversation. Let me know in the comments which character perspective we should examine next, because sometimes understanding a love story means looking beyond the romance and into the psychology behind it.